Grab some peanut butter because this portion of our conversation is jam-packed with so much great advice and some passionate opinions about the state of content marketing today.
Now let's actually talk about the actual ins and outs of digital marketing itself,
Yeah.
right? So obviously just starting a business, all of that is wildly fascinating. So many students are super interested in that. But I also want to talk about the actual process skills, related to digital marketing more
Yeah.
specifically. So when it comes to marketing a new business or whenever you're onboarding new clients, what are some of the problems that you're seeing the most that they are asking for help with in the digital marketing space?
Ooh, I mean, I'd say typically, gosh, there's so many now. I'm like trying to like narrow, like kind of like, I would say the biggest topic lately has been AI. We get a lot of clients like, okay, how do we utilize AI for like what we're trying to build and what we're trying to do? Um, and I think, you know, I think AI is powerful. I think it's such a cool tool. I think there's, some personal fears I have just with like the level of the power it does have, but I think it's cool to be able to utilize it in certain ways and make it great for our clients. But it does take a very skilled approach on how to utilize it and when to utilize it. Especially in a digital, it's so funny because we're in a digital age of authenticity, and yet we have the most inauthentic tool at our disposal right now, and it's the most powerful tool probably ever since sliced bread, if you will. So I just think that's a big one we get a lot of questions about, is how can we utilize it? And we do for some clients for sure. We try to utilize it in specific ways, very strategic ways. But honestly, if I were to boil it really down, a lot of our clients just come to us because they have a lot of problems that they can't figure the solutions out for. They just don't know, like, we're having communication problems. We don't know, like, and they think they know the solution. And then we come in and we're like, that is definitely not the solution. Like, this is where we need to really hone in on clarifying your message and your communication channels and your brand and your tonality and your voice. So the hot topics and the platforms will always be there. It's always going to be a new thing. It's always, should we be on TikTok? Should we be on the next thing? Should we be on the next thing? And it's like, it all comes down to like, who are you as a brand? Like, who are you trying to service? Who are you trying to reach? And then let that define the platforms and the strategy and the flow out of that. Because if you can't answer that, then you're always going to be freaking out about where you should be.
Okay, so that's excellent because actually one of the questions that I had was, will digital marketing forever be brands chasing consumers to whatever platform they've migrated to most recently? And how can brands
Mhm.
maintain a strategy when they don't even really know where they're going to need to be next?
Yeah.
Because like you said, with AI, and I know TikTok has been the big one, obviously most recently, but for those of us with, enough age behind us, it was like, okay, how do we leverage Facebook? Okay, well now all of the cool kids have left Facebook and only their parents or grandparents are left. Now how do we take advantage of um Instagram and Vine and Snapchat? And I mean, like, it's just constantly moving. And
Evolving.
so go ahead, and you already said like kind of what that core is. If you don't know who it is, if you don't know what your brand message is, if you don't know who it is that you're trying to talk to, but go ahead and drill down even more if you can, and breaking down the most critical components and best practices of a brand's online presence, kind of regardless of
Mm.
platform.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, to sum it up of like what I was even saying before, it should always be the question of who, not how, first, and then you lead into the how, right? So I think practically what that looks like is you're looking at multiple, like, your brand should be in some form or fashion in digital sphere. If you're not, you're like way behind and archaic. But I think that there's a lot left on the table with companies and organizations when they're just so concerned with what's happening around them that they've forgotten, like, what are the core things in a marketing sense that we should be doing? SEO, social media. You should be, content is huge, like bigger than it's ever been, but it's so underrated. I'm also like huge fan and will always forever be a huge fan of email marketing. I think it's powerful, and I think people have like kind of let it fall to the wayside. But if you can do it right, email marketing is intensely powerful. But I think people from the spam side feel like it's nothing now, but it's insane how incredibly powerful it can be. So I think, and then of course, when you get into social media, you get into like the practice. Like we've ran millions of dollars of ads at this point as an agency for our clients, and when drilling into like Meta and how much they change all the freaking time, it's so frustrating, but also very challenging in a lot of ways because we have clients who hear something from someone else and they, oh, we should be doing this. Da, da, da. It's like, okay, but let's go back to who are we trying to reach? Like, so if I'm trying to reach, if I'm trying to reach Dr. Amy, it's probably not in my best interest to go run ads on TikTok. Like,
Ain't there.
she's not, and if you are, it's a very specific strategy for TikTok than it is Instagram. You can't take your Instagram ads and just flip it over to TikTok. Like Facebook and Instagram Meta created this world where you could kind of use the same content on both platforms because they were owned by the same company. And it kind of made sense, right? I'm scrolling my Facebook. Okay, I'm going to hop over to Instagram because I need something visual to look at now. Now it's like TikTok is a totally different ballgame, a totally different strategy, totally different world. And if you don't hit it right, you will get canceled in 2 seconds by the generation that is on there. So it's like you've got to really be strategic in how you approach each platform. And I just think core wise, going into any sort of business organization, it's like, okay, what are you currently doing? And then revamping a lot of that to go back to the who, like who are we trying to reach? Does it even make sense that you're on this platform? I think digital ads are huge. SEO, again, huge. Keyword optimization is massively important, underrated, I think, in today's world, because SEO was the hot term, probably it was like 10 years ago was kind of the
Yep.
SEO was like the big buzzword of the marketing world. And it's still really relevant, but I think people have let go of how powerful it really still is in terms of content. YouTube, massive, massive. And people just they don't even think about it because most of the older generations don't even think about YouTube as a platform, but it just surpasses the number one platform for search. It's owned by Google, obviously, but it's past google.com, like, which is, that's huge. So you should be putting like there needs to be content on there, but again, it has to be the right content. It can't just be content for content's sake. It needs to be strategic, reaching the audience, all that.
So let's talk about, so you have mentioned content a couple of times. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Content is hard. It's so much harder than people
Yeah.
think that it is. So talk to us about like why it's hard. Talk to us about some content best practices, and also talk about tools, right? So feel free to talk about the kind of the behind the scenes software planning tools that you use, but just dive a little bit more into content for us.
Yeah. Content it can be a tricky beast because at the core of it all, it really needs to be you as a brand. It needs to sound like you. It needs to be you. It needs to not be what other people are trying to be and do. And I think that's so easy. Now, I am a firm believer that like nothing's new under the sun. Okay. Like you're not going to create the next thing that's never really been thought. It's very, even Elon didn't invent the first electric vehicle. Electric vehicles were before Elon. He took it and made it a trillion times better, in my opinion. I'm a Tesla owner, so kind of biased. But anyway, it's like content is looking at it from this perspective of how important it is, which is super important. And in terms of some of the tools, like we use AI to create some content. Now, not so much in like image generation, although we have done that for some of our clients in the past, but some of it's just in content writing. Like there is really no excuse, and I'm really preaching to myself right now because our content at Black Fox for our brand is not the best yet because I've been working 90 hours a week on other things. But there's really no excuse in today's world for businesses or organizations to not have good content presence, and especially in written, because all it takes, like we use Chat GPT. Like we go in and we, we craft the right prompts to get what we need. And then we go through and never trust it fully, by the way. Please read through the work. Like don't ever just use it. And it's also a level of plagiarism that you have to be aware of. Like you need it to be you and you need to be written, but you can use it for ideas. So like we use that for a lot of content ideas, like create me a list of 10 things that I should be using, some content ideas for me to create for Black Fox Media. And it'll pump out like, here's 10 posts, ideas, not hard
Copy
content.
paste.
Right. Not copy paste. It's like, oh, do a reel about virality. Okay, cool. Like that, I can now make that Michael and I can make that Black Fox Media, but it's helping to prompt a little bit more, especially when, we said it multiple times now, like I'm working so much. Sometimes it's difficult to have creative inspiration when you're trying to be like, okay, what do I do now for my business? So getting ideas from tools like that are fantastic. More tangibly for SEO side, we use a tool called Mangools, which is really, really cool. So one of the products we actually offer to some of our clients, especially our faith-based sector, is if you're a nonprofit, you have access to $10,000 a month in free Google ads through the Google Ad Grant campaign. So we come through and we help them get set up on that. And then but the next layer to that is creating the content for that. You don't just get like $10,000, right? You have to create the content that's going to work for it. So we create a lot of blog articles around hot topics that are being searched. So like how to deal with depression, how to deal with an anxiety. We write those blog articles around it, and then we're creating landing pages that we're sending people through their Google grants that then send them to the church's website or to the nonprofit, to the mental health website. And that's powerful because one, you're able to help people get tangible things that help them like deal with what they're facing, but then you're also having your clients get more traction to their website that they may not have gotten before. So utilizing tools like Mangools, where we're able to go in and you just type in the topic like anxiety, and it'll bring up, it's incredible. It'll bring up the full list of active keywords for that word in that area. So you put anxiety, Orange County. It'll come up with all the Googled phrases and words and keywords and all that. And then it'll also give you like 10 of the top sites that have the most hits on those words in that area. So then you're able to go in, like even figure out like, what is it truly that people are looking for? Oh, you think it's anxiety, but it's really depression. So that's a very tangible like example of a tool that, of one of the tools that we use. Obviously we use Meta's backend for their business side of things. I've used third-party tools, and honestly, it's just more difficult. A connection breaks through their API, and then it just becomes a whole mess. So we just go native through Meta a lot of times with our clients because it's just a little bit easier and quality is a little bit better. And then trying to think, Google. We're a big Google Drive company, so like everything, a lot of spreadsheets and a lot of Word docs going around, throwing out. And then project management we use ClickUp, which we love. Big ClickUp guy.
Yeah, I was just one of the other podcasters mentioned ClickUp and how much they really like it as well for that. So you said spreadsheets. How much more do you live in spreadsheets than you thought that you would whenever you left school?
A lot more. A lot more. And there's many classes I wish I would have paid more attention in utilizing them, because I mean, I don't do a lot in Excel per se. I'm big anti-Microsoft guy, so I'm much more like I need ease. I just don't want to have to like download something, But still, even with Google Sheets, like, and we've got several clients that use Microsoft as well, so we have to be in Excel and use that too. Like it can save you so much time, heartache, and everything if you just know like the core essentials of spreadsheets, like formulas and like.
Thank you for this. I'm making them earn their Excel for Marketers certification.
Oh, as you should, 100%, because there's so much power to it, and it's not just in using Excel. It's being able to even think of different programs in certain ways. So, for example, we use a reporting software called Dash This. Love it. You can build your own reporting, pull in all the APIs for what you need. It's pretty cool. But when talking even to their customer service reps, there's like, because of some of the information I know from Excel, which is basically what reporting software is, just like really advanced Excel sheets, right? Um, I've been able to pull in certain terms, formulas, description to problem solve for them on their own product and say, well, hey, if you ran a formula like this, that I know how to do it in Excel because I did it here, here's an example, you could create a widget that does this. And they're like, oh, that's cool, you know. So down to like, it's not just because you know, I got to be in Excel all day and I'm just gonna be crunching numbers all day. It's like, no, like you need to be, you know, a capable human being as well in terms of just being able to problem solve. And sometimes to be able to do that, you have to just know how different platforms work. So
Yeah.
yeah, do it. Excel's massive. And I would hire somebody in a minute if they knew it like even more than I did about Excel, because it's very important.
Yeah, and so talk about like so you mentioned reporting. So
Mhm.
go ahead and talk a little bit more about that. So how are you measuring? So you're working on content for clients. What are the metrics that they're looking for? What are they hoping that this content accomplishes for them? And then how are you gathering those metrics? What are your KPIs? How are you reporting them back?
Yeah. I'm going to give you an answer that probably won't be the most famous answer out there, but it really, it's tough. That's a tough answer to distinguish directly because it's so different for each client. So we are a boutique firm. We are very hands-on with our clients, which is also why we are at a different level within the pricing structure even. So each client's report looks a little different because they have different goals, different campaigns that we're running. So, but at the core of it, there are some essential like metrics that I pull in and try to look at, and then I gauge it based on the campaign that we're running. So, you know, cost per click is a big one, especially when we're looking at SEO. If we're running meta ads, a lot of time, like that's huge depending on the goal of the campaign. Sometimes we run brand awareness campaigns because that's what the client really needs and wants in their strategy, which at that point, you're not really looking for clicks as much as you are reach and impressions within the reporting. And that's what would be your KPIs. Like, are we reaching enough people within this area? I'm a big advocate of like numbers are great to look at, but they're even better if you know how to use them. And that is a big skill that I would recommend everyone here really dive into is like, what do the numbers mean? And back to integrity, don't falsify numbers like a lot of marketers do to tell a different story that makes them look better. I mean, it's the world we live in, but I'll call it out like it is. Like that is a big piece of like, you know, if I say 80% of Americans are happy, well, the flip side of that is 20% of Americans are not. So like how, you know, it's all in the narrative we're trying to speak. And I'm not saying I'm not guilty of it, but use the numbers to tell the correct story and make sure it's just clear to the client, because I've been a part of a lot of meetings where numbers are kind of fudged or maybe misrepresented because they're trying to avoid the negative. So one of the campaigns we were like one of the big campaigns we run for clients is called plan your visit campaigns, and this is more in our church sector, and it's getting people to plan their visit to come to a church service. So when running a campaign like that on Meta, the biggest metric that I'm looking at is CPL, which is cost per lead. You get them to fill out a Meta lead form. You've seen it all on Instagram. You click an ad and it autofills your info and then submit, right? That's a lead. So when those leads come in, I'm looking at the cost per lead. So what is their budget? How many leads did we get? Cost per lead. If that industry average, like the highest range for cost per lead is about $40 a lead. Our clients were getting them about $12 a lead, which is pretty incredible. But anytime that goes up to the 20 plus mark, I'm getting concerned. I'm kind of like, what are we doing? What do we need to do? We need to do creative. We need to do content. We need to do strategy. And the first 3 seconds of content is the most important, and especially video. If your client's not doing video, like if a brand client organization is not doing video content, they are failing, period. It is the most important form of content right now. But even more than that, it's the first 3 seconds of that video that is the most important. Data is showing that if you can have the differences in the first 3 seconds of a video changes the game for ads, for engagement, for reach, for impressions. So we're constantly A/B testing, like constantly like, okay, we use the word hey in the first 3 seconds. What if we use the word you in the first 3 seconds? What if we use this in the first 3 seconds? Like, and pulling those metrics in. Like we ran a campaign over Christmas for a client, and we had almost 120 different ads running in this one campaign for Christmas that had different headlines, different body copies, different video, different photo, different everything. And then we were able to pull the report after and look at what worked. And now we're crafting more strategy based on what worked. So I don't even know where I was just a hot moment for a second, but video is so important. And when looking at reporting and presenting that to the client, I try to be very clear. And again, I keep harping on this integrity piece because it's just so core of who I am. But like I've admitted openly in meetings, like, hey, this isn't a great cost per lead, and we're going to work to make it better for you. And they appreciate that. Not, oh, let's just kind of cover that up in the rug. But we got you 10,000 people of reach. It's like no one cares about a reach if I'm like running a lead campaign, like 0 leads, but 10,000 people saw it. That means nothing to me.
Right.
Nothing.
That means it wasn't very good if 10,000 people saw it and not a single lead came out of it.
Exactly.
But let's talk about it. Right. And marketers do that a lot. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So we've talked about video. I've seen all of the stats about the importance of video as well. Video is really hard though, because like you said, written content, okay, you can get some help with, almost anybody can write. I mean, I've seen a lot that not super well, but
right.
it's way easier. It's way easier to write and maybe take a picture than it is to create a video. So I know a lot of smaller clients, smaller businesses, they're really scared of video because they don't have the capabilities and they view it as really expensive. And so what do you recommend for that? Because like I said, I mean, if you're not doing video, you are kind of failing. But video is hard. So how do you balance that?
It's a great question because I just believe that like content posted today is better than no content posted at all. Whether it's I mean, I'd rather it be great, I want it to be the best that it can be, but you have to start. And so even for me, like, we've been testing some things on the Black Fox side of our content being posted, and we're not getting great engagement. But like I just told our team, my goal is for this right now is like nothing. I just want the goal is to post, period. And so when starting with a client, especially like a newer client, or maybe they're just getting started, or maybe they've been posting terrible content and now we're revamping it, I set the bar and the metric of like the goal is to just post. That's it.
And talk about why that's so hard. I know that it's so hard to just post, but walk us through why. Why is that so hard?
I think okay. So there's a lot of data that goes into even the difference between posting to, like, let's just use Facebook, Instagram as the example. Instagram, really, there's a lot of stress around people posting to their grid than their story. People will post to the story because it goes away in 24 hours. There's less commitment. It's a blip. There's less pressure to feel this professional level quality stuff. But when they post to the grid, people are nervous. People don't want, I'm nervous. I get nervous and I don't want to do it, and I'm like, I don't know, like I pay a guy now to just do it. And I'm like, I don't want to see it. Just post it, because it gets wrapped up in yourself. Like it's how you feel like you're being presented, how you feel you look, you're nervous about what the comments. Haters are out there. Like there are people who are like professional trollers, okay? And they will just like it's almost a thing to be the worst comment on posts now. Like the generation coming out is just like vicious at times, Our own generations are vicious at times. Like we've seen the Karens, they can be terrible. Sorry for anyone who's named Karen on this call. You're great. Yeah. Don't be a Karen. But all that said, the pressure is there. And when you're looking for a brand, it's like, well, what if we post something and it gets canceled? What if we post something and it's offensive? There's so much stress and pressure around, like, what if we post the wrong thing, that you forget if you go back to who you're speaking to and you're truly talking to this audience, then what you post will resonate with them well. And you're always going to have haters. It's always going to happen. But as Queen Swift said, haters are going to hate. Okay. Let them hate. So, but yeah, there's a lot of pressure on that, and it's pressure of wanting to make it look good, and it's a representative of your brand. Great example. I posted a video on we posted a video on the Black Fox account several weeks ago that one of the there were several misspellings in the captions that were put on there. Now, I wanted to die on the inside because, like, when I first saw it before it got posted, I was like, that's not Black Fox standard. That's not Black Fox quality. Learn to spell, people. Like, come on. Side note, that's why using AI is great, but also terrible because it's not always right. So check your work always, 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 always check your work before upload. Always. I don't care. Just check it. Anyway, I had so many people I hadn't even talked to for 10 years DM me and be like, hey man, your video has like mistype, there's typos in your captions, and you need to know about this because I know that you're, as Michael, you would never want, like, that's just not on brand for you, and it was like cool in a way because it got a ton of engagement. One guy wrote me to shreds. He was like, I explained to him, I actually did it I posted it intentionally with typos. Although that's not the Black Fox standard, I did it because there's some data behind people paying more attention and getting more engagement and it feeling more authentic and real when there is a typo. They feel like it's less perfect, so they can resonate with the video more. So that's why I did it. I just wanted to see, and of course it worked. People blowing up and people were like blowing it up because they were like, "There's typos in it." But in that moment, I learned also. I was like, I felt a disconnect for myself because I was like, it really is not the standard for us to have a typo in something. So I'm not going to do that again. But I learned, and I was willing to take a risk for it. So back to the point of the question of like the pressure. I just think that there's this built up pressure from people that think, man, if I post this, I'm going to get blown up, or I'm going to get torn apart, or I'm not going to get any likes. What if nobody likes it? But when you relieve that pressure and you're like, I know I have a message that I have to get out to my audience, and I'm going to post it and it will resonate with somebody, then you can release that pressure and just do it. And then from there, you just grow.
Talk about the time consuming piece, which is obviously why, people will people will hire an agency to be done. But so not only the pressure of what might happen in the comments, and so for everybody who like also listens to the Danielle Vincent podcast that I've done, like she talked about that because she had some really big stuff happen with doxing and death threats and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just because of her brand. I mean, it's a personal care company, it's
Right.
crazy, crazy, crazy. But why is content and posting so time consuming?
God. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with probably our generation. Amy. We're the ones to blame. But it's time consuming because it's the constant trend of having to be on trend. It's the constant drive of always having to be the next best thing, to not be it's this weird dichotomy going on with like the consistency in the brand, which is really, really cool and people love and want to resonate with, mixed with, well, we got to always be doing something different. We always got to be on the edge. I've got a client right now who is running we don't do their organic social media. It's fantastic social media, but they have an in-house team that manages it. We just run their ads, but like the conversations I'm having with my client and the constant rat race that he is now in because of what he's built is insane. It's constantly like, I got to create more content. I got to do more. I got to do the next best thing. I got to have another thing. It's got to wow. It's got to flash. It's got to be. It's got to da 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 da. And it's like that's unhealthy. First of all, second of all, it's like the time-consuming piece of that is because of the world that we continue to build as engagers of always wanting new. It can't be the same. It can't be. We always want to be entertained. It's always got to have newness to it. But I think there's a lot of power in being consistent and just kind of being this. And it just there's some of the best accounts with the most followings are of people who just do the same edits, same style, same look, same appearance, same caption, same this. And they get some of the best engagement because people can now expect it. And I think we're running into a place where people are getting tired of seeing new, that they want to rest in the familiar and in the known. And I think that's going to be the next digital scape, is like, we're going back into this place of like, okay, I just need a rest. I need visually to just kind of see something that I'm familiar with. I don't need another flashy thing. Whereas we were in that world of like, ooh, what's new? What's next? Flashy pop, this, that, and it's like, now we're
Thank
going
you
back.
so much for saying that. And I hope that you are right. I hope that that prediction is correct. I really, really do. Because anybody who has listened to me in any of my classes, or been for sure, will tell you, I absolutely, absolutely, like, you want to hear somebody go off on a tangent? I will go off on
Yeah.
a tangent about shorts and the chaos of YouTube shorts. Like, they don't even finish the freaking story. They don't even, like, you don't even get the main idea across
Right.
before, like, it's over, you're on to the next thing. And people don't care. Like, I listen to people beside me at restaurants or whatever, and like the sheer chaos that is coming out
Yep.
of their phone as it bounces from one thing to the next. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, finish a thought,
Right.
finish a story. Like, what was the freaking punchline?
Right.
What was the point of this 20 seconds? Like, give me 3 more seconds and finish it.
Right.
Oh my
And we
gosh.
wonder why our world today is dealing with such high anxiety.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh,
It's
it
like,
stresses me out. I cannot handle that. Everybody who has ever listened to me talk about digital marketing knows I hate, hate, hate the shorts. And like you said, just this, you were doing it. Like, you were like, this thing and this flashy thing. And so that is, it feels like that's what it's doing to our brains and to our emotional state.
it
So
is.
I hope that you are right. And I hope that the next kind of trend, and it is a little bit more zen and a little bit more like
Yeah.
familiar and restful. You said the word rest, and I really like that. I feel like that we need that. And trends do have a tendency to kind of swing and then swing
Yeah.
back. And so, oh gosh, I hope that that's the case.
Yeah. Same. We really need it. And there's power in it if you can master it with the right brand. I mean, there's a lot of power in it. So consistency.
Yeah. Okay. So content and SEO obviously go hand in hand, knowing what those keywords need to be. Can you talk about any keyword tactics, or kind of most successful avoiding punishments and keyword stuffing? Is that still a thing? Like, can you talk about like the Google algorithm, and how do you know it's all pretty new, but all of the new search engines, even Microsoft has come out now with some actually, exciting, like,
Mhm.
Bing has been in such a far second place for so long, but they're really, they have really close relationship with Meta and Llama, and with
Yeah.
OpenAI and ChatGPT. And so Microsoft is doing some exciting things. I know you're not a Microsoft fan, but
They do great work though.
how do how is AI integrated into the search? How is that impacting search and SEO and content?
Hmm. I think well, so a great tool to kind of get a pulse on what is kind of going on. There's a great tool called answerthepublic.com. And this is a great content strategy, by the way, is you can utilize this site to find some hot topics that are being searched. So without kind of like wondering what's going, you kind of like can go to this site and kind of find hot topics. And then from there you could build like a keyword strategy behind it, or SEO strategy behind like some of the big topics. So like, if a big question is, how do I deal with um, how do I, how do I deal with depression and anxiety? That's a big one, just because I was working on a project for that with clients. So it's like we can utilize those kind of terms to create content for that. But I think the power of AI is, honestly, it's like still hard for me to even grasp it a little bit, because it's so unknown. It's like, what is like how, but like any tool, right? Like, let's break it down to like the core essential of a hammer. The reason a hammer is so powerful is because you know how it works. It's not because it's some new tool that's on the market. It's been used so many, you've used it so many times, I can do this with it. I can hammer a nail. I can maybe pull a screw out. You can utilize it in so many different, kind of what I was saying about Excel. If you know all these things, you know how to use the tool to your advantage. So like AI, constantly learning and evolving. And I've got some friends in the AI space that's doing some pretty crazy stuff with AI that I'm just like, wow, that's above my pay grade, I feel like, which we all know is low. So that's not saying a lot here, but anyway, I think the way that it's integrating into search engines is going to be insane. I mean, it's basically going to get to a point where it's like thinking things for you before you even thought it, which is cool, but also scary because is that more of an effect of making you think a certain way because you think it knows you when it doesn't, you know? So we're still not, I mean, we as an agency are still even navigating like and trying to stay on the trend of it all. Like, how do we, and Meta actually just released that they're going to start dinging people for using AI generated content.
Right.
So which is really interesting, especially from the ads perspective. They're going to start really, nailing down on people utilizing any sort of, if it feels AI, looks AI, whatever, they're going to start like canceling ads and basically shutting it down. And so, which is interesting that they're doing that out of all platforms, because I feel like they'd be the biggest advocates for it. But I think we're going to run into, especially when it starts to get, right now it's like the Wild West, and eventually it will get reined in and it'll start to get regulated, and governmental entities will come in and start trying to like do all that. But until then, I think it's a fun yet scary place to play, a bit of a playground of like, who knows what's going to happen. But I know we as an agency are still even navigating how to utilize it for our own advantages when we can with clients. And usually
So
that's in terms
how
of
you
costs.
mentioned that, oh, sorry, you mentioned the askthepeople.com.
Yeah, I think it's answerthepublic.com.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's it.
Let me make sure that's
That was
right
it.
though.
No, I couldn't remember what it was.
Yes, answerthepublic.com. So it's basically kind
Answerthepublic.com.
of a keyword search tool, but like it more advanced.
Okay. How how frequently would you have to change your campaign or change so based on that? So you said you're writing, so based on that, you find, these are the things that people are looking for. Okay, well, then when are they no longer looking for those? Like, how frequently are you having to update your content and change your strategy? And maybe not your strategy, because obviously, like, I mean, you don't want to be changing your strategy every month. So how do
Yeah.
you do something like that where the results are constantly going to be changing? And so you want to use a tool like that and you want to tap into, but you have this strategy that needs to be like years long, right? Like, you're trying to build something that is a years long, comfortable, familiar, well-known brand. So you said you create a landing page, you do all of that stuff. How frequently is that going to have to be updated based on a tool like that?
Um, yeah, a lot. I have some friends who are in the like consulting influencer space doing millions of dollars a year in that realm. And I mean, they're constantly shifting their content based on response, and so it really should be something that's like almost, they're doing it almost daily, but that just takes a large team where you're just constantly like, on it all the time. For our clients, what we like to, the way I approach it is I'm trying, and this is why a lot of our clients hire us, is because my team we are looking at the 10-year strategy. So right now, what's happening right now will always be like this. It's always going to be shaking. It's always going to be changing. It's always going to be moving. But like when we're like here, it's like, okay, but our goal is to be here, and we adapt through everything to make it to that goal. But keeping the bigger picture in mind is sometimes what helps clients feel a little more at ease when they do come to you with all this like, oh, TikTok just came out. What are we supposed to? Oh, we got to be on this. Oh, we got to be on that. And you're like, okay, like we'll take that into consideration, but like this is our strategy, and we have not let it run long enough to understand what our actual audience wants and needs. So I've got a client right now who constantly is like blowing me up about like, saw this TikTok about this new ad campaign that we should be doing. Should we do it? And I was like, but when you've built enough trust with your client and trust through results, you're able to speak into it and say, hey, that is a great strategy for them. But where we're at and what we're trying to do, it's probably not, that goes off of what our original goal was. So are we changing our goal? And if they're like, oh, well, no, our goal is still to reach blah, blah, blah. okay, great. Well, this strategy we put in place. Now, I'm not saying I'm always right. Like I'm always willing to learn, but like this is what we know to work to hit that goal. If we want to go down this route and start changing keywords and start changing this and start changing that and da, 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 well, now we're going towards a different goal. So is that what you want? Or is it like, because we can adapt and flex, but like that's just not what we talked about. That's not what our original goal was. So going through and changing all this stuff. Now it doesn't need now there's the getting into the details and the weeds of things. Like we're checking it every day. We're removing keywords that aren't performing. We're shifting, adding, moving. We're checking these different tools that we have to see if maybe keywords have updated. But ultimately, it comes back to reporting. It's like if don't fix what's not broken, right? Like, yeah, you should be advancing, but if it's working, don't change it. Like,
Yeah.
fact is, I think in this world, going back to the conversation we just had about the constant chaos that's going into our lives, like we feel the need to always change and always do and always me and da, 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 da. And like there's power in just letting what works work. That's what's making people millions of dollars every year on the internet, is because they know what works and they do it, and they do it consistently, and they hit it
Right.
on the nose every time. Amazon is Amazon because it knows its people, right? Like it know, and it's advancing in its own ways, but at the core of what they're doing, it's not anything different.
Right.
Does that answer that question a little bit? I know that's probably not like very tangible, but
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. Okay, so I'm not the expert anymore. You, I was the professor, now I'm the student. So I've been asking the questions, but it's your space, it's your world. So I want you to, what questions have I not asked, or what has not been talked about or said that you think is really important for the students listening to hear about digital marketing?
Hmm. I'm going to take it from a little bit of a different perspective, because what I'm about to say is a little less. It impacts it impacts the world of digital marketing, but because it starts with you, and I think it's more important than ever that we learn. I said it a little bit earlier, but we learn how to rest, learn how to turn off the phone and not be scrolling. Go find inspiration outside of what other people are doing in the online sphere. I think that there's so much power in taking a break, going for a walk, putting your phone away, being present in moments like this. Like I don't, my do not disturb is on. It has been on for 2 hours, 38 minutes and 41 seconds. Like there's power in presence and being with the people that are around you. And I think, and I say all that because it's like, okay, cool, Michael, like how does that impact digital marketing? It actually makes a huge difference, because you as a digital marketer are needed. You are in a sphere where it's always changing, always trending. People are looking at you like you are the next, Jeff Bezos or the next like Facebook. It's like people just think you're always on trend. And sometimes you have to allow yourself the space to just rest and be at peace and give yourself permission to turn off the phone, to put away social media. If it wasn't my livelihood, I would delete it and I would burn it to the ground, because I absolutely get so frustrated with the consumption of it. But I love it in the same. What I've tried to do now is turn that into a place of like, okay, as a digital marketer, how can I make this platform a better place for people to exist, to get content, to be impacted, instead of just constantly being inundated with negativity or fake news or getting canceled or hatred or whatever. Like we can be those warriors that fight that battle for the people who have no idea that this happens every day on this plane. So I know that's probably a little bit more outside of it, but I think just take a break. Like take care of yourself, give yourself space to rest, give yourself space to ideate and to brainstorm and to be creative and to think and to work in teams, and like just give yourself that space, because this field is constantly chaotic. It's constantly full of pressure. Things are changing all the time. You don't always know all the answers. So you constantly have to be on your game of learning and being humble enough and being coachable, all the way back to the very first conversation we had, like being coachable of the platforms that you're on, because it will always change. So I think that's a big piece of it, is take care of yourself personally, and give yourself a me day, but then the next day get up and work. Don't stay on a me day for, oh, I need my own space and I need my own rest. Okay, we all have mental problems. Okay, like let's just get up and work too. You got to balance it. You play a big thing at Black Fox, and a big part of me and my life is like work hard, play hard. My wife and I say that all the time. We work really hard and then we play real hard. Like when we go on vacation, we go on vacation, and we try to disconnect. And so I think that's a big important piece to digital marketing that is underrated in today's world. Is it's not all about hustle.
Yeah. You gotta stop and play with Walter.
Yes, Walter, he's sleeping, right? He's snoozing. But yes, like I've got a Frenchie named Walter. You got to stop and play with him because they need that, and ground yourself into that. And I think, tangibly in the digital marketing space, I would say, be focused on like the brand and the clients you're trying to service. You're hired for a reason. You're there to help them get somewhere, and they've trusted you with that. So don't become a taskmaster and just do what people tell you to do. Come with ideas, come with ingenuity. Think about, like, take that ownership of that brand. Most of our clients come to us and they say these exact words: the reason we're back, or the reason we've come to you, is because we've heard you just own our brand more than we own it. So like that is the core. Like if you can do that as a digital marketer, you will be just fine in this field. No matter what platform, no matter what strategy, no matter what this or that is changing, like own it for the clients like it's yours.
Thank you for watching this entire conversation rather than the 20-second short version. Now, disconnect from your screen and think about what Mikel has shared while taking a walk. Or better yet, have a conversation with someone about something you learned or found interesting. Whatever you do next, be present.